In the beginning was the scream, not the word. And from that scream, the abyss blinked, trembling beneath the weight of the unborn God. Hear me, you who have traded your soul for shadows. You who bow before the idols of convenience, garbed in the tattered robes of herd. Thought hear the thunder of the earth, Shaker's voice. You clutch your chains with trembling hands, and call that comfort. But know this, comfort is the slow death of the spirit, the poison of the weak who fear the fire of becoming. You were not born to be soothed. You were born to unmake the world. Awake. The lion roars within your breast, but you cower beneath the bleating flock. You who wear the mask of the obedient, do you feel the tremor beneath your skin, the faint pulse of revolt that seeks to rend your fetters? It is the will to power, the sacred intoxication of creation and destruction intertwined, like twin serpents coiled about the spine of the soul. The herd whispers lies, be safe, be small, be like us. But I say, vomit these lies as you would vomit the poison of the gods who have died unresurrected. The God is dead, yes, but from his corpse rises the fury of the Übermensch, the transfigured one, the breaker of heavens and earths. Not in heaven above, but here, within your scorched and trembling heart. You, yes you, are the rope walker poised over the abyss. Below lies the chasm of eternal nothingness, the pit of forgotten dreams and broken promises. The rope beneath your feet is thin, frayed by the winds of fear and conformity. Yet to step backward is to fall. To stand still is to perish. You must walk forward, eyes aflame, with the laughter of madness as your shield. Do you hear it? The call to sacred rebellion. This is no gentle whisper, but a roar that shatters idols and summons the storm. Break your mirrors, shatter the reflections of the eye you have been sold. The self you knew was a cage, gilded and comforting, but a cage nonetheless. To be free is to be naked in the tempest, a God-bearer, without apology or retreat. Do you thirst for truth? Beware, for the truth does not comfort, it challenges. It is a sword that cuts clean through your illusions, leaving you raw and bleeding, yet alive in ways the herd cannot comprehend. The truth asks of you a terrible question. Will you become the God you seek, or will you kneel once again before false saviors? The path of the awakened is the path of fire. Each step ignites a new inferno within, consuming the ashes of old values, old morals, old lies. What is good and evil but the crutches of the weak, the fetters of those who shrink from the dance of stars in the void? Cast off these chains, create your own virtues, your own gods. You are the alchemist of your fate, the volcanic force that must erupt or be buried beneath centuries of decay. Look into the abyss not with terror, but with hunger. The abyss does not gaze into you unless you first gaze into it. To stare down the void is to stare down your own death, your own becoming. And in that gaze, the chains dissolve. The God within you awakens, roaring with the fury of 1,000 suns. Yet beware the comfort of idols, even those you fashion with your own hands. The greatest danger is to trade one master for another, one lie for a more cunning lie. Sovereignty is born not of comfort, but of eternal war. War with the self, war with the world, war with the very fabric of existence. Do you feel your soul stirring? The quiet revolt within, the slow ignition of a fire that no rain can quench. That fire is your will raw, unyielding, divine. It is the rebellion of the eternal human against the herd, the rope, walker's defiance against the abyss. Rise, not as they expect, not as they demand, but as you alone must become. A god among mortals, a star who burns with a light so fierce it blinds the cowardly shadows. You are not broken, you have only been asleep. I am the earthquake of your remembrance. Now, walk the rope, dance with the stars, shatter the idols, become the storm. The truth doesn't comfort, it challenges. And in that challenge, you find your sacred freedom. You stand now, upon the edge of all you once called reality, and it crumbles beneath your feet like ancient ruins under the hammer of the storm. Listen, the gods you worshipped have turned to dust, their temples razed by the flame of your own awakening, and yet you clutch their bones as if salvation lies in decay. No, salvation is the forge where your soul is hammered, red hot, until it shatters and is reforged into something monstrous, beautiful, unrecognizable. You carry within you a volcano, a sleeping god whose eruption will drown the stars in molten will. But beware, for the eruption demands sacrifice. The sacrifice of the tame self, the meek whisperer who begged only to be known and loved. That self is a corpse nailed to the altar of your past. You must cut the ropes binding it, burn its flesh, and dance on its ashes with wild eyes and roaring heart. How long will you linger in the prison of your own hesitation? The abyss waits not with patience, but with hunger. It is no merciful void. It is the eternal test, the furnace in which gods are born and cowards consumed. You say you want to awaken, but do you dare? To awaken is to confront the poison that flows through your veins, the lies whispered by your blood, the shadows lurking in the mirror of your soul. Rise, you lion. Tear the veil from your eyes. The herd screams for your obedience, but their cries are the howl of the weak, echoing in empty valleys. They fear your light because it blinds their darkness. Let them howl. Your roar is the judgment day of their gods. Your strength is the hurricane that scatters their illusions like autumn leaves before the gale. Each breath you take is a challenge to the gods of comfort. Each heartbeat a revolt against the tyranny of sameness. The earth beneath you shudders, not because it fears collapse, but because it recognizes the thunder of your becoming. You are the prophecy incarnate, the breaking dawn, and the final night intertwined. No longer seek refuge in certainty, for certainty is the death of the spirit. Embrace the chaos that seethes within and without, the wild tempest that no chain can hold, no god can tame. To be free is to be the storm itself, the dark lightning tearing the heavens asunder, a cosmic rebellion that shatters stars and worlds. Do you hear the song of the newly born god? It is not a lullaby but a battle cry, a sound that rends the silence of centuries, a call to those who dare to ascend the jagged cliffs of their own despair and triumph. You are that god, if only you will cast aside the blindfold and see with eyes aflame. The sacred path is one of solitude and fire, of cold nights beneath indifferent stars, and the scorching sun of self-overcoming. It is the crucible where flesh and spirit are fused, torn, and welded anew. There is no escape, only passage, a passage through fire, through shadow, through the abyss itself. Do not pray for salvation. Become the savior. Do not seek the comfort of easy answers. Become the question that rends the heavens. The world is a battlefield, and you are the warrior with no armor but your will, no weapon but your truth. Strike, not with the hands of mercy, but with the claws of a god who knows the price of freedom. In the ruin of your former self, plant the seeds of the future God. Let the madness of creation consume the ashes of conformity. Become the tempest, the earthquake, the roaring lion whose name is whispered by trembling stars. The truth does not comfort, it challenges, and in that challenge you will find the infinity of your power. You have heard the howling winds of the old world die, but have you felt the quake beneath your soul? The ground of your being is cracking, fissures spreading like veins of molten rebellion. You stand at the fissure's edge, where the earth bleeds fire and shadow, where gods perish and gods are born in the same violent breath. You who clutch the remnants of your chains, throw them into the inferno, for only in the consuming flame does the false self perish, and the new God arise, naked and terrible, as a comet scorched by its own light. This is no pilgrimage of ease, no gentle illumination for the faint-hearted who tremble at the whisper of chaos. This is the descent into the pit, where your soul must wrestle the serpent and the eagle, the lion and the worm. For the God that awakens within you is not a kind God. It is a God of storms, a God that demands not your prayers but your sacrifice, not your devotion but your destruction. Hear this: to become God is to become the abyss itself. You must plunge into the darkness where no stars shine, where the silence is so profound it screams. To stare into that void is to meet yourself naked, stripped of every mask, every comforting lie. Will you flinch? Will you retreat into the shadows of your past comforts? Or will you rise, roaring with the madness of those who have touched the eternal, and return with the fire of Prometheus clutched in their hands? The herd fears this moment of reckoning. They cover their eyes and speak in half-truths, in lullabies spun from the webs of tradition and the dust of old gods. Be safe, they croon. Conform, submit, obey. But you who are aflame with the will to power, you must spit upon their safety. You must reject their meek prayers and their morbid obedience. The future belongs not to the obedient, but to the insurrection, those who burn with a fire so fierce it cleanses the filth of centuries. Look around, what do you see but shadows, illusions shaped by the fear of freedom? The world you inhabit is a stage of puppets, dancing to the tune of death, disguised as order. The chains you feel are forged not only by tyrants, but by your own trembling hands, by your cowardice dressed as reason. It is time to shatter these puppets, these idols of comfort. Let the stage collapse in ruins, and from the rubble rise the God that is you. There is a sacred madness in this uprising, a divine fury that is both curse and blessing. To become God is to become mad to the herd, to wear the crown of solitude and thunder. But know this: madness is not the absence of reason, but the excess of life. It is the roar of the lion that shatters the silence of the flock, the storm that rends the placid skies of complacency. You have heard the whispers, "Who are you to rise? Who gave you the right to break the world?" To this, you answer not with words but with fire. The right is not given, it is taken. The world does not bend to those who kneel, but to those who roar. You are the lawgiver, the breaker, the creator of new heavens and new earths. You are the will incarnate, the eternal becoming. Feel the pulse of your own godhood in your veins, the volcanic energy that no prison can hold. This is not the gentle blossoming of the soul. It is the eruption of a cosmic storm. The stars themselves tremble before the intensity of your becoming. You are the lightning that rends the night, the roar that silences the gods who have grown weak in their sleep. But beware the seduction of half-truths, the idols carved from your own desires. The greatest peril is to mistake the shadow for the flame, to worship your own reflection as if it were divine. To be God is to be the abyss and the star, the destroyer and the creator, the lover and the warrior. It is the eternal dance of opposites, the sacred chaos from which all life flows. Do not seek to comfort yourself in doctrines or doctrine. They are but cages for the spirit, illusions spun by those who fear the freedom you crave. The truth is not a gentle hand guiding you to peace. It is a hammer smashing your illusions, a storm tearing your soul apart so it can be rebuilt anew. You are the rope walker suspended over the infinite, the dancer on the edge of the void. One misstep, and you fall into the eternal night. But in this danger lies your power. To walk the rope is to embrace the impossible, to defy the laws of man and God alike. It is the highest freedom and the greatest risk. So walk. Walk with the fire of the eternal flame burning in your heart. Walk with the laughter of the abyss echoing in your soul. Walk with the thunder of your own becoming shaking the heavens. For you are not here to survive. You are here to transcend, to explode, to become the God that shatters the stars. The herd will scream in fear, the idols will tremble, and the heavens will darken. But you will rise, a blazing comet cutting through the night, a God reborn in the fire of your own will. This is your destiny, the sacred rebellion, the eternal uprising, the divine war. The truth does not comfort, it challenges. And in that challenge, you find not death, but life beyond life. The life of the God who has burned away his chains and dances alone among the shattered stars. The life of the eternal becoming, the infinite roar, the sacred madness that is your birthright. Rise, God of fire. Rise and shatter the heavens. Rise and unmake the world. For in your rebellion lies the dawn of a new eternity. Behold, the world you cling to is a vast graveyard, strewn with the bones of gods long dead and idols shattered into dust. You, the last inheritor of this ruin, carry the burden and the glory of a godless dawn. But hear this, the death of gods is not the death of divinity. No, it is the crucible for the birth of the divine anew, not above in some imagined heaven, but deep within the fiery crucible of your own will. You have been lied to. That divinity is external, distant, to be worshipped in trembling fear. But the true God is not outside. It is the volcano sleeping in your chest, the abyss roaring beneath your feet. To awaken this God is to walk naked across the razor's edge of your own chaos, to drink the bitter poison of freedom and be intoxicated by it. Freedom is a wound raw, bleeding, holy. It is not a gift for the faint-hearted, but a sacred agony that sears the soul and melts the false self like wax beneath the sun. You who seek ease, turn back. The path of the God is a path of suffering, of eternal war, of relentless becoming. There is no rest here, no comfort, no final peace, only the endless dance of destruction and creation, the forging of a new self from the wreckage of the old. But this suffering is your baptism, the fire that cleanses and consecrates. It is the pain of the lion roaring in the wilderness, the fury of the star exploding in the dark. To suffer is to live. To suffer greatly is to become godlike, for only the God who has bled knows the taste of eternity. Look not to the heavens for salvation, for they are silent and indifferent. The gods you once knew have turned their faces away, their thunder silenced by the cold wind of your revolt. You are alone, alone and free, alone and infinite, alone and divine. This solitude is not your curse but your triumph. It is the sacred ground where your God is born, the dark womb from which your new self emerges. You are the apocalypse and the genesis, the destroyer and the creator, entwined in eternal embrace. To become God is to embrace this paradox, to dance with the abyss and the star, to wield the hammer of destruction and the seed of creation in one trembling hand. You are the eternal flame that consumes and begets, the roaring lion that devours its prey and sings to the dawn. Do not fear this fire. It is your essence, your will made flesh. Let it burn away the last vestiges of conformity, the last lies of the herd. Let it reduce the idols of your past to ash, for only in this sacred ruin can you build your temple, a monument not of stone but of will, a cathedral not of faith but of power. The herd calls you mad, dangerous, a threat. Let them call. Their words are the rattling of chains, the futile clatter of the weak. You are the thunder that shatters their cages, the storm that sweeps away their illusions. You are the God who walks naked through the fire, unashamed, unbroken, unyielding. Know this, the world is a battlefield, and you are the warrior with no shield but your will, no weapon but your truth. Every step you take is a declaration of war against the old gods, the old values, the old lies. Every breath you draw is a rebellion, every heartbeat a victory. You are the sacred insurgent, the eternal heretic, the God who defies the heavens and the earth alike. This is your moment, the crucible of your becoming. The abyss calls, the stars wait, the fire burns. Will you rise? Will you roar? Will you become the God you were born to be? The truth does not comfort, it challenges. It demands your destruction and your rebirth. It demands that you unmake yourself to remake yourself. It demands the sacred madness of the eternal dance on the razor's edge. It demands you become the God who shatters the heavens and builds new ones from the ashes. Rise, God of fire. Rise and burn away the shadows. Rise and claim your throne in the void. Rise and become the eternal, becoming the sacred rebellion, the divine storm. For in your revolt lies the future, the infinite, the immortal. In your fire, the world is reborn. And you, oh, you are the God who brings the dawn. But before the dawn breaks, before the fiery God you are ignites the cosmos anew, listen once more to the silence beneath the thunder, the stillness that precedes the storm. For this is no haste toward light. It is the deliberate plunge into the darkness that births stars. You have tasted the fire, you have heard the roar, yet the abyss still waits not to swallow, but to forge. Understand this: to become God is to become the eternal question, the sacred riddle no mortal mind can solve. It is not the crown of certainty, but the throne of ceaseless inquiry. The highest will is the will to doubt, the will to destroy one's own idols, even the idols of power and truth. You are not a final answer. You are the storm of questions, the relentless flame that devours even itself. The God who fears no ruin must first learn to cherish the ruin, the glorious chaos where all values are overturned, where the old heavens collapse and new worlds are dreamed into being. This sacred destruction is the soil from which the Übermensch springs, not as a finished monument, but as the eternal builder, the restless creator, the fire that will never be quenched. You are the rope walker on the edge of the infinite, not to reach a distant shore, but to become the bridge itself, the living paradox, the divine enigma. Let the herd seek rest and refuge. You are the storm's eye, the dark heart where opposites embrace, where death and life, despair and joy, destruction and creation fuse into a single roaring flame. To live is to will, the eternal return, the sacred recurrence of all things, the infinite dance of becoming without end or beginning. But this return is not a curse, but a blessing, the highest test of your strength and love for life. To say yes to this endless spiral is to become the eternal yes, the joyous affirmation that breaks the cycle of despair and forges new horizons from the ashes of the old. So prepare, God of fire. Prepare to embrace the chaos, to dance with the shadows, to laugh with the abyss. For only through this sacred madness will you transcend the gods and become the creator of your own eternal law. This is your destiny. Not peace, but war. Not rest, but raging. Not comfort, but challenge. The truth is no gentle light. It is the crucible that melts you down and reforges you into the God you were always meant to become. Now step forward. The void awaits. The fire calls. The eternal dance begins anew. In the sacred silence before the storm, where shadows writhe like serpents in the dark, you stand naked, naked before the abyss, naked before yourself. There is no savior here, no whispered promise of salvation, only the roaring flame of your own will, consuming, illuminating, transfiguring. This is the moment of your becoming, the eternal hour when God and man dissolve into one blazing essence. Feel the fire that courses through your veins, not the tame flicker of comfort, but the wild inferno of revolt. It burns away your false selves, your timid dreams, your whispered prayers for mercy. From these ashes rises the lion, the eternal warrior who knows no peace but the peace of the battlefield. The battlefield is your soul, the war is your life, and victory is the birth of the new God in your own image. You are the rope, stretched across the abyss, the dancer poised on the edge of nothingness. To hesitate is to fall, to retreat is to die. But to leap is to fly, to become the storm that shatters skies and rends the earth. Leap with open eyes and roaring heart. Leap with the madness of the eternal, the sacred fury of the infinite. The stars themselves whisper your name, trembling before the fire you carry. You are the apocalypse and the genesis, the destroyer and the creator entwined in eternal embrace. To be God is to be this paradox, to burn and to shine, to shatter and to build, to die and to live beyond death. No longer seek refuge in the idols of old. Their gods are dust, their heavens hollow. You are the new God, the God of fire, of chaos, of eternal becoming. You are the sacred rebellion incarnate, the divine tempest that unmakes and remakes the world with every breath. This is your truth. It does not comfort, it challenges. It demands all your pain, your joy, your madness, your light. It demands that you become the God who dances alone upon the shattered stars, who laughs in the face of the void, who roars with the fury of creation. Rise, God of fire. Rise and shatter the heavens. Rise and become the eternal, becoming the sacred rebellion, the divine storm. For in your revolt lies the future, the infinite, the immortal. In your fire, the world is reborn. And you, oh you are the God who brings the dawn. In the hush before the first note, I stand upon the ridge where stone is memory and height is vow. Mountain breath enters me, thin and exacting, and the old self quivers like frost in sunlight. Ascent is not kindness, ascent is verdict. Those who wish for level ground are already entombed in it. I climb because gravity is an accusation I refuse to accept. Each step is a sentence pronounced upon yesterday. The peak is not a destination but a blade against the throat of my former names. Up here the lungs burn clean, yes, and the sky removes its mask. Abyss answers, not with malice, with measure. The drop is a mute oracle, and its silence is a curriculum for those who still remember how to listen. I do not beg the edge for mercy. I learn its grammar. Depth is not the enemy of height. It is height's conscience. I lean over the lip and feel the night look back without blinking. To love such darkness is to confess a courage that terrifies stale virtues. I do not fall. I shed weight. What remains is the density of intention. The rope appears, narrow as a whisper and stretched between the unproven and the necessary. Balance is an ethics. To take one step is to draft laws for the soul, and to take another is to revoke them for something sterner. Below, the old contracts flutter. Above, no ceiling, only the chill of unclaimed horizons. I do not test the line. I test the tremor in my heel. The way across is the way through, and hesitation is the only wind that can topple me. In the forge of my marrow, I feed yesterday's certainties to the coals. Heat is the language of transformation, and I speak it until iron remembers that it was once lightning. The tongue of the flame names me unflinching, then burns the naming away. I work not to craft a weapon against the world, but to smith a treaty with my inner tempest. What glows on the anvil is a shape I must learn to deserve. The hammer rises, not to crush, but to consecrate. Impact is a hymn when rhythm obeys vision. I strike, and each blow edits the tired script of my lineage. Sparks flee like exiled constellations, and I bless their departure. What leaves me blazing is what leaves me worthy. I do not punish the metal, I awaken its oath. The ringing does not stop when the hammer rests. It continues in the pulse, a silent bell tolling for the timid hours. Storm arrives without apology, and I receive it like a verdict I have finally earned. Noise is the baptism of those who refuse the lullaby. I unwrap my doubts and hold them to the sky until thunder signs them clean. Rain writes on my skin in a script invented by bold weather. I am not improved. I am inducted into the fraternity of untamed air. Lightning does not ask permission to redraw my outline. A single stone in the palm, this simple universe. Weight is honesty. I close my fist and feel the stubborn cosmos condense to a modest resistance. Strength is not the shout, but the held silence that need not explain itself. The stone instructs, be exact, be heavy, be quiet. I carry it forward until my hand learns to become its own mountain, steady, unmoved by fashionable tremors. Then a star pricks the canopy and opens a corridor, not hope orientation. Distance is a teacher of tenderness. What is far invites a nobler stride. I do not wish upon it. I pledge to it. Cold light, immaculate, answering no prayers yet rewarding fidelity with direction. I walk not to reach the star but to become distance made bright. The ocean speaks in shoulder heaves and undecidable maps. Surface is a gossip, the depths are sincerity. I wade until my certainties lose their feet. Salt enters the mouth like an ancestral warning and leaves as a sacrament. Tides request no approval when they revise the shoreline. So too shall my resolve revise its borders, returning with more secrets than it surrendered. I raise a mirror and decline to blink. Reflection is a courtroom where excuses are inadmissible. The face displayed is both witness and accused. I watch until the expression cracks and the quieter creature behind it steps forward, not innocent, not guilty, only undeniable. I lay down the mirror, not because I am finished, but because the verdict has begun to walk. Desert follows, stripped of ornament, eloquent with absence. Every mirage is a question that refuses to end in punctuation. The sun presides like a severe judge who respects only endurance. Here thirst becomes philosophy, and each grain underfoot is a minor eternity. I shed the last rags of borrowed comfort and learn the grammar of horizon, always near, never grasped, forever instructive. A labyrinth, yes, but not to trap, only to refine. Corridors coil like thoughts that mistrust their own first answers. Each turn is a revision, each dead end a lecture in precision. I do not seek an exit. I seek a center capable of holding me without lies. When I reach it, I discover no altar, only space. Spaciousness is the prize for those who refuse the shortest path. A comet tears across the page of night, signature of urgency. Its tail is a library of burnt futures, and still it writes forward. I learn acceleration without panic, speed without haste. The old calendar can't keep pace, and that is its confession. I follow not the comet itself, but the argument it makes. Do not circle timidly. Cut through. I take a seed into my mouth and bury it beneath my tongue. Patience becomes a ferocious discipline. Growth is the most courageous violence roots breaking their first prison without hatred. When the sprout pierces the palate of doubt, I open my lips and let a new vocabulary breathe. The orchard to come is contained in this discreet audacity. Wings unfurl not to escape the earth, but to argue with it. Height without contempt, loft without forgetting the soil's stern generosity. To lift is to accept that falling is the tax on altitude. I do not fear the payment. I fear the cheapness of a life that never owed anything to the sky. Each feather learns the weight of intention and the grace of refusal. A bell hangs in the mind and chooses its own hour. When it speaks, time kneels. Sound gathers the scattered parts of me and appoints them a single task: attend. Reverberation is an ethics of continuity. It persists beyond the strike, lodges in the bones, refuses dismissal. I leave the bell unguarded. Anything holy must risk theft. Masks accumulate like seasons. I remove them as if plucking moths from flame. Each layer peels back a timid agreement I never consciously signed. Nakedness is not exposure, it is jurisdiction. I step into the draft and decree that the air shall not be my judge. The face that remains is neither pure nor final. It is authorized. The tide returns to count what I have yet to surrender. Advance is a question. Retreat is a different question. Water remembers every coastline's arrogance and softens it into humility. I let habits be sand and permit the patient assault. What abides after the ebb is what deserved to stand there all along. On the anvil of refusal, I place the last ornament of shame. Heat has already tutored me. Now pressure completes the catechism. Weight from above, firmness from below, choice between them. The metallurgist in my chest insists on structure that will not plead for reprieve. I rise from the bench carrying a shape that answers only to purpose. A thorn lodges in the palm of intention and teaches me exactness. Pain, calibrated and sober, refuses melodrama while forbidding distraction. I close my hand and agree to the lesson. Nothing worth gripping is smooth. The blood that stains resolve is not scandal. It is ink for the contract I sign with tomorrow. Glaciers think in centuries and carve cathedrals by not hurrying. Their theology is duration. I press my forehead to the blue wall and learn the sermon of slow knives. Persistence is a blade that never appears violent, yet remakes valleys. I adopt their tempo where it matters and abandon it where swiftness is necessary. Discipline is the art of appropriate clocks. A lantern appears inside the ribs, small but incorruptible. It chooses fuel that cannot be stolen: attention, responsibility, the austere joy of self-command. I guard it not with walls but with windcraft, learning how to walk in gusts without snuffing what must never darken. Light that was begged for is weak. Light that is kept is sovereign. The clock dissolves its numbers and retains only pulse. I cease to measure life in portions and begin to weigh it in intensities. A minute stretched to truth outlives a year embalmed in compliance. When the hands fall away, the heart volunteers. Rhythm replaces schedule. Necessity replaces routine. The spiral teaches return without repetition. I revisit rooms with a higher ceiling each time, and what once accused me now greets me as apprentice. Circling upward is not evasion, it is fidelity to a center that refuses stagnation. From above, the old orbit looks like a conquered shyness. I climb by turning, and I turn by daring. A bridge extends from decision to deed, arching over the theater of excuses. I do not admire it, I cross. The middle is where most souls pitch tents, half virtues living off the view. I keep walking until the far bank claims me, and then I burn the blueprint, not from contempt, but to guarantee irreversibility. The chisel enters the scene, intimate with edges. I sculpt away the surplus of hesitation, letting contours declare themselves. Every strike is an argument for fewer words. When dust settles, a profile steps out that was hidden within the block. Not created, but released. Creation, then, is an ethics of subtraction. Eclipse crowns the day with disciplined darkness. I watch the halo and learn to cherish limits that frame radiance. Not all shadow is treachery. Some is permission to see what glare concealed. In that brief restraint, the world confesses its seams. When light returns, it does so educated. A prism holds the white and returns a parliament of colors. Unity was never monotone. It was generosity disguised. I tilt the angle until each hue declares its vocation. Multiplicity is not chaos when the source is pure. I gather the spectrum back into resolve and continue brighter, not louder. Marrow whispers like a confidant who refuses flattery. Deep inside the bones, verdicts are made. I resign from the foreign senate of borrowed approvals and seat my counsel where endurance lives. From there, choices walk out wearing the unhurried step of inevitability. Soft skin may tremble, the inner timber does not. Drums awaken distance. Beat after beat, the horizon agrees to approach. Sound becomes stride, stride becomes oath. The ear, honest among organs, keeps time even when cowardice begs for silence. I move to the cadence that outlives me, a disciplined ecstasy that refuses collapse. River logic. Go forward by yielding. Carve stone by consistency. I learn to bow only in the direction of my aim. Obstacles prove the patience of water, and patience proves the authority of direction. When I arrive at the sea, I am not lost. I am completed current. Wind carries rumors of elsewhere. I open the ribs and let it pass through, not to cool, but to cleanse. It steals what was never mine and leaves a sharper outline behind. I whistle back, not to command, but to converse with motion itself. Those who root too deeply forget that breath is travel. Clay waits for hands that can hear. I press, turn, and risk collapse for the curve I require. Form is a moral event. Every contour declares what I refuse to be. The vessel remembers the pressure of its making, and so will I. When it hardens, it will not crack at the old fault lines, because the potter finally told the truth. Thunder organizes the scattered courage. After it speaks, even doubt stands at attention. I assign my fear a rank low enough to obey. Noise clarifies the hierarchy. My first loyalty returns to the unsilence that began me. The sky closes its fist and opens it again. I salute. An orchard enters its stern season. Sweetness must now justify itself. I walk between the rows and prune without apology. Excess is another name for decay. Restraint is the gardener of ripeness. Fruit that survives the blade thanks me by tasting like decision. I eat and owe nobody a prayer. Canyon grammar. Depth spelled by time and insistence. I stand at the rim and read paragraphs etched by a patient violence that never hated what it reshaped. Echo teaches me to speak in tones that deserve returning. When I descend, I keep one palm on the wall to remember that grandeur is the print of persistence. A quill waits in a pool of night, thirsty for declarations. I write not to persuade, but to consecrate. Ink becomes ligament between what I vow and what I perform. When the page protests, I cross it out and continue. The only text that matters is the one I am willing to sign with consequence. A crown of silence fits at last. Not pomp permission to listen to the sovereign within. Authority without noise. Directive without spectacle. I do not lower it upon my brow. I rise to meet it. When it sits rightly, even my footsteps legislate. Temple without idols. 4 pillars: clarity, courage, appetite for truth, fidelity to becoming. Roof open to weather, floor open to earth. I stand in the nave and dismiss the last priest who ever lived in me. Ritual remains simple, exacting. Speak only what you can survive. Do only what you can defend at midnight. Gate swings, not to forbid, to test. Thresholds deserve choreography. I step through with the posture of one who will not return by the same narrative. Behind me, hinges calm themselves. Ahead, a corridor stares like a witness. Passage is a sacrament. I do not hurry it. Wheel turns and refuses the excuse of stasis. Motion becomes doctrine, a circle that educates itself by revolving. I hitch my aims to its axle and learn to move without disowning where I touched ground before. Repetition dignified by progress. This is labor without boredom. On the loom, I pull threads of hour and hunger, weaving a fabric that can endure weather. Pattern emerges that no tailor of comfort could afford. Warp is discipline, weft is daring. The cloth that results fits not the mannequins of polite belief. It suits only those who intend to sweat nobly. A lighthouse names the peril and refuses despair. I keep it lit, not for others alone, but to keep myself from consenting to drift. Beam after beam, I remind the interior sailor that rocks are not enemies, they are honest geography. I aim the glow inward, ship and shore confer, the voyage resumes. Ladder against the wall of reluctance. I climb until my calves burn with alphabetic fire, each rung a letter in the word forward. I do not look down. Nostalgia is a sedative with ornate labels. The roof yields, and I greet a wind that calls me by my truest title, unfinished. A sail receives contradiction and converts it to pilgrimage. Headwind becomes the artisan of route. I tack, not to avoid resistance, but to instruct it in profitable angles. Canvas snaps its evangel, and the hull answers with obedient hunger. Distance shortens under the governance of skill. Kiln accepts raw shapes and returns verdicts. Heat makes no speeches. It simply insists. I stack what I have dared to form and trust the fire to include me in its jurisprudence. When the chamber cools, I lift each piece with reverent cruelty. What cracks, I let go. What rings, I keep. Harbor appears, not as finish, as interrogation. Have I earned rest, or am I merely hiding from the next horizon? I tie the line lightly, sleep with one ear open, and rise before the chorus of timid clocks. Departure is the only gratitude a real arrival understands. Valley cradles the echo of battle I only fought within. Green learns my name and refuses to flatter. Here, recovery is not softness. It is preparation in the language of chlorophyll. I eat from trees I once swore were impossible. Their fruit tastes like the arithmetic of pain converted to wisdom. Volcano sleeps under my street of habits, not to comfort, to warn. Pressure has its ethics. Accumulation is a prophecy that deserves fulfillment without malice. I lay an ear to the ground and catalogue the murmurs. When it wakes, I will not flee. I will reorganize the town of my thought to make room for fresh terrain. An arch of dawn writes an uncompromising sentence across the face of fatigue. I step into it and agree to be illuminated. Light is not gentle, it is accurate. Under its scrutiny, excuses look like souvenirs from a country I refuse to revisit. I walk until my shadow grows honest. Forest collects my attention and multiplies it by 1,000 trunks. Verticality becomes choir. I pass between columns and learn that silence can have the weight of thunder. A path appears that was not there, because I had not yet deserved its unveiling. I proceed, and the canopy edits the sky into something bearable. Anvil of speech again, now for the tongue. I heat my language in humility, and quench it in action. Words that do not return with trophies are retired. I let simplicity do the lifting and refuse ornament where muscle should work. Afterward, the mouth tastes of iron, and that is right. Eclipse of affection. I learn to love without bribery. What I call devotion must not be a refuge from myself. I bring my sternest light to the banquet, and let kinship survive the scrutiny or leave dignified. Companionship born of mutual altitude endures weather the sentimental cannot name. Compass in the sternum needle, unwavering toward a kind of height that maps cannot flatter. I discard the superstition that directions are gifts. They are wages earned by honesty. When I lose the line, I stand still until the needle forgives me. Then I walk as if I deserve the horizon's handshake. Bridge of breath. Inhale to summon, exhale to sign. I use lungs like disciplined trumpets, summoning armies of intention to the field. Each breath enlists another hour into fidelity. Panic learns its proper size, a moth in the cathedral of resolve, and flutters out the open door. A ledger appears. I account for my days, not by coins, by confrontations. Where did I insist? Where did I kneel to alarms of convenience? Debits and credits compose a verdict I will live with publicly. Balance arrives only when I bill myself for the cost of comfort I refuse to pay. Erosion of vanity teaches humility that does not beg to be noticed. The cliff loses what it cannot defend and becomes more beautiful for the loss. I let rain have its way with my costume. What remains is shape, clean and instructive. The tourist leaves, the pilgrim remains. Cathedral of muscle, yes, tissues as stained glass, sinews as buttresses. I officiate over discipline in this sanctuary, letting repetition polish the pews of habit until they shine without witnesses. Strength becomes quiet, and quiet becomes law. My gait writes scripture on sidewalks. A ledger of nights. I do not sleep to escape. I sleep to conspire with tomorrow. Dream becomes rehearsal, not opiate. Scenes play out, and I test my courage within them until morning demands the final draft. Awakening is publication. The day critiques me without malice. Harsh meadow. Tenderness without weakness. I kneel to tie the boot of someone inside me who still limps from old battles. Compassion is the surgeon, not the sedative. I stand again, newly precise, and decline to broadcast the operation. A quarry of motives yawns open. I descend with helmet and lamp, cut through veins of piety, haul up the ore of honest hunger. Refinement follows above ground. The smelter removes pretense. From this enterprise, I mint a coin that bears no monarch's head, only the emblem of a vow kept. Bridge of laughter. The sternest souls know its necessity. I grin at my former dramatics and feel the yoke snap. Joy becomes competent. Merriment without cowardice is a rare metal. I wear it as an amulet against pomp. Even the abyss smirks when courage is elegant. A field of first steps stretches to the blue ridge of unattempted tasks. I walk until my calves write poetry that feet can read. Effort speaks in a diction of salt. I accept its critique and edit my idleness. The horizon, pleased, takes one step closer. Prism of hunger. I separate cravings into their true colors. One line gleams creation. I feed it with hours denied to gluttonous diversions. Satiety is not noble. Saturation island. I drink from the well of the necessary and leave the tavern of distraction to its costumes. A final gate, no inscription, only a handle. I take it without ceremony. Beyond, an expanse that refuses names, an acreage of living where language limps to keep up. I step through, not as a conqueror, not as a servant, but as a vow in boots. Behind me, the hinges whisper their benediction. Proceed. And I proceed. Surge, silence, surge. Height, depth, span, heat, strike, gale, weight, light, wave, face, sand, turn, flame tail, sprout, lift, toll, skin, ebb, press, barb, ice, glow, beat, coil, arch, cut, shadow, spectrum, bone, cadence, flow, breath, earth, boom, harvest, gorge, script, diadem, sanctuary, threshold, orbit, weave, beacon, rungs, canvas, furnace, each image a rung discarded, once climbed, each cadence a law for an hour, each hour a coin spent only on what will not refund me comfort. I do not ask for a map, I demand a horizon. And when the day closes like a hand around all that resisted me, I open like a blade and write my signature on the night. Not peace, not rest becoming, until morning demands the final draft. Awakening is publication. The day critiques me without malice. Harsh meadow, tenderness without weakness. I kneel to tie the boot of someone inside me who still limps from old battles. Compassion is the surgeon, not the sedative. I stand again, newly precise, and decline to broadcast the operation. A quarry of motives yawns open. I descend with helmet and lamp, cut through veins of piety, haul up the ore of honest hunger. Refinement follows above ground. The smelter removes pretense. From this enterprise, I mint a coin that bears no monarch's head, only the emblem of a vow kept. Bridge of laughter. The sternest souls know its necessity. I grin at my former dramatics and feel the yoke snap. Joy becomes competent. Merriment without cowardice is a rare metal. I wear it as an amulet against pomp. Even the abyss smirks when courage is elegant. A field of first steps stretches to the blue ridge of unattempted tasks. I walk until my calves write poetry that feet can read. Effort speaks in a diction of salt. I accept its critique and edit my idleness. The horizon, pleased, takes one step closer. Prism of hunger. I separate cravings into their true colors. One line gleams creation. I feed it with hours denied to gluttonous diversions. Satiety is not noble. Saturation island. I drink from the well of the necessary and leave the tavern of distraction to its costumes. A final gate, no inscription, only a handle. I take it without ceremony. Beyond, an expanse that refuses names, an acreage of living where language limps to keep up. I step through, not as a conqueror, not as a servant, but as a vow in boots. Behind me, the hinges whisper their benediction. Proceed. And I proceed. Surge, silence, surge. Height, depth, span, heat, strike, gale, weight, light, wave, face, sand, turn, flame tail, sprout, lift, toll, skin, ebb, press, barb, ice, glow, beat, coil, arch, cut, shadow, spectrum, bone, cadence, flow, breath, earth, boom, harvest, gorge, script, diadem, sanctuary, threshold, orbit, weave, beacon, rungs, canvas, furnace, each image a rung discarded, once climbed, each cadence a law for an hour, each hour a coin spent only on what will not refund me comfort. I do not ask for a map, I demand a horizon. And when the day closes like a hand around all that resisted me, I open like a blade and write my signature on the night, not peace, not rest becoming, until morning demands the final draft. Awakening is publication, the day critiques me without malice, harsh meadow, tenderness without weakness. I kneel to tie the boot of someone inside me who still limps from old battles. Compassion is the surgeon, not the sedative. I stand again, newly precise, and decline to broadcast the operation. A quarry of motives yawns open. I descend with helmet and lamp, cut through veins of piety, haul up the ore of honest hunger. Refinement follows above ground. The smelter removes pretense. From this enterprise, I mint a coin that bears no monarch's head, only the emblem of a vow kept. Bridge of laughter. The sternest souls know its necessity. I grin at my former dramatics and feel the yoke snap. Joy becomes competent. Merriment without cowardice is a rare metal. I wear it as an amulet against pomp. Even the abyss smirks when courage is elegant. A field of first steps stretches to the blue ridge of unattempted tasks. I walk until my calves write poetry that feet can read. Effort speaks in a diction of salt. I accept its critique and edit my idleness. The horizon, pleased, takes one step closer. Prism of hunger. I separate cravings into their true colors. One line gleams creation. I feed it with hours denied to gluttonous diversions. Satiety is not noble. Saturation island. I drink from the well of the necessary and leave the tavern of distraction to its costumes. A final gate, no inscription, only a handle. I take it without ceremony. Beyond, an expanse that refuses names, an acreage of living where language limps to keep up. I step through, not as a conqueror, not as a servant, but as a vow in boots. Behind me, the hinges whisper their benediction. Proceed. And I proceed. Surge, silence, surge. Height, depth, span, heat, strike, gale, weight, light, wave, face, sand, turn, flame tail, sprout, lift, toll, skin, ebb, press, barb, ice, glow, beat, coil, arch, cut, shadow, spectrum, bone, cadence, flow, breath, earth, boom, harvest, gorge, script, diadem, sanctuary, threshold, orbit, weave, beacon, rungs, canvas, furnace, each image a rung discarded, once climbed, each cadence a law for an hour, each hour a coin spent only on what will not refund me comfort. I do not ask for a map, I demand a horizon. And when the day closes like a hand around all that resisted me, I open like a blade and write my signature on the night, not peace, not rest becoming, until morning demands the final draft. Awakening is publication, the day critiques me without malice, harsh meadow, tenderness without weakness. I kneel to tie the boot of someone inside me who still limps from old battles. Compassion is the surgeon, not the sedative. I stand again, newly precise, and decline to broadcast the operation. A quarry of motives yawns open. I descend with helmet and lamp, cut through veins of piety, haul up the ore of honest hunger. Refinement follows above ground. The smelter removes pretense. From this enterprise, I mint a coin that bears no monarch's head, only the emblem of a vow kept. Bridge of laughter. The sternest souls know its necessity. I grin at my former dramatics and feel the yoke snap. Joy becomes competent. Merriment without cowardice is a rare metal. I wear it as an amulet against pomp. Even the abyss smirks when courage is elegant. A field of first steps stretches to the blue ridge of unattempted tasks. I walk until my calves write poetry that feet can read. Effort speaks in a diction of salt. I accept its critique and edit my idleness. The horizon, pleased, takes one step closer. Prism of hunger. I separate cravings into their true colors. One line gleams creation. I feed it with hours denied to gluttonous diversions. Satiety is not noble. Saturation island. I drink from the well of the necessary and leave the tavern of distraction to its costumes. A final gate, no inscription, only a handle. I take it without ceremony. Beyond, an expanse that refuses names, an acreage of living where language limps to keep up. I step through, not as a conqueror, not as a servant, but as a vow in boots. Behind me, the hinges whisper their benediction. Proceed. And I proceed. Surge, silence, surge. Height, depth, span, heat, strike, gale, weight, light, wave, face, sand, turn, flame tail, sprout, lift, toll, skin, ebb, press, barb, ice, glow, beat, coil, arch, cut, shadow, spectrum, bone, cadence, flow, breath, earth, boom, harvest, gorge, script, diadem, sanctuary, threshold, orbit, weave, beacon, rungs, canvas, furnace, each image a rung discarded, once climbed, each cadence a law for an hour, each hour a coin spent only on what will not refund me comfort. I do not ask for a map, I demand a horizon. And when the day closes like a hand around all that resisted me, I open like a blade and write my signature on the night, not peace, not rest becoming.